Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tom again. So, in the last episode, if you'll recall, I told you how my dad was guest hosting, and we actually did it at his house. And there ended up being a little bit of confusion because we recorded these two episodes back to back, and my stepmom was under the impression that we were doing one and done. So if you notice during the later part of the episode, you hear things like silverware moving and plates being slammed together. I thought that for continuity, because Adam and I have always said that we're not professionals, so in that same vein, we decided to keep it in for the humor aspect. I just thought I'd let you know that that's what you're listening to. So let's get into it. All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Guys Questionable Credentials. I am Tom, and as you may have guessed by me still doing the opening, my dad is here also. Dad, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me back, or sitting here for a couple minutes after we finish the last one.
So, hold on, before we jump into anything, I thought it was worth pointing out. In the last episode, when we were talking about Spider Noir, we were trying to figure out what Nicolas Cage's fiance, or Ben Reilly's fiance was, Ruby Williams. And apparently that's a very unlucky name, because I just happened to glance over and I'm looking at six obituaries. And like if you click on all images, it's just obituary. Apparently either they don't name people Ruby Williams anymore, or there's some sort of curse. Although they all look like they're lived a good life, but that's neither here nor there. Alright, so with Spider-Man Brand New Day coming out at the end of the month, I thought maybe it would be kind of fun to just talk about the movies in general. Favorites, least favorites, which one do you think the best, worst, etc. I figured it would be a good topic because, I don't know, I think when it comes to Marvel, Spider-Man's my favorite character. I don't know how you feel about that.
I agree wholeheartedly. It's probably, as my son, one of the reasons he is. So that collection of comic books is probably 70% all the different Spider-Man comic books dating back to So the reason I got into comic books as a teenager in, I want to say 1986. I know probably most listeners here are going, oh my Lord, my parents weren't even born yet. But anyways, I was a teenager and we were driving to my aunt's house in Ohio from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 4-hour drive. We stopped at a convenience store for a drink and I saw a comic book rack and I saw a Spider-Man comic book. And it was called Sin Eater Volume 4, Return of Sin Eater. And I picked it up, and the rest is history. I collected for years. I stopped for years. I started up again for years. But Spider-Man was the very first one. I always collected every iteration of All New, All Daring Spider-Man, Amazing, Peter Parker Spectacular. I think there was 4. At one time in the 80s, there was 4 of them running at the same time. So literally every week, and some would run twice a month. Every week there was a new Spider-Man comic out. So it was the heyday of comics.
And if I remember correctly, you said that even though they were like 4 or 5 different books, they were all part of the same story, though, right?
A lot of times they would do their own story. So Amazing would have a certain story arc. Peter Parker Spectacular would have a certain story arc. But they would do sometimes crossovers. But it was all like Peter Parker was the same age. He was dating Mary Jane. He was, you know what I mean? It wasn't like there was no multiverse or anything crazy back then. There wasn't any variations. The most wildest thing that they did with the Spider-Man comic is when they gave him the black suit. And I believe that at the time, that was the first major comic book character that did a suit change like that, to go from the classic red and blue to all black. It caused instant reaction, and it was split down the middle. 50% of people hated it, 50% of people loved it. Sales went up, and they did a survey. Are you still buying comic books? I hate the black suit, but I wanted to see it. Well, then why'd you still buy them? Well, it's the black suit. I got you. So it was funny back in those days. Yeah. So Spider-Man by far always been my favorite.
I was gonna say, as someone who went through your collection, boarded and bagged, and I actually have an app on my phone where I actually scanned them all. If I had to put my money on it, it was either Spider-Man, Superman, or Batman as your favorites. I found those to be a nightmare to try to organize and separate, and then for you to say that, a lot of the time you had to like read them in a certain order. I was like, perfect. I guess I'll never read Spider-Man because it'll drive me crazy to go through and Amazing number 1, Spectacular number 4, and
it's an addiction, as you know, because I know you collected for years. You were your favorite character. I know you said Spider-Man, but you went through a phase where Green Lantern. Oh yeah, and you still love the Green Lantern comics. Sorry, Marvel. It is allowed to like DC comics. Shoot, where was I going with this conversation? I apologize. I totally lost my train of thought, but I'm sorry. So, Thomas, your favorite Spider-Man movie?
Favorite movie. So I would probably have to say the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man. I don't think it's the best, but there are certain times in that movie that I still get chills the first time I watched it. Yep. The scene where there's the burning building and the woman is a bad mom and left her child on whatever floor of the building, and just seeing Spider-Man flip through the window, flames on both sides, and returning the baby, and then the cops go to arrest him, but then when they think they hear a woman still struggling.
Goblin.
Yeah, spoiler for a movie that came out in 2001. But the cops telling him to go because they can't do anything. Because honestly, my first thought was when you asked me my favorite, I loved No Way Home. I think I saw it twice in theaters, and I even went to see it in a drive-in. But that just seems unfair to because there's so much it's a good movie, but there's so much fan service, and also when you watch it now, it's a little weird because Marvel knew what they were doing with this movie and the different Spider-Men. There are times where the movie pauses for cheering or applause, nothing happens. When you're in the theater, it was awesome. Then when you're watching it at home, it's just incredibly obvious. How about you? What's your favorite?
So I would have to agree. But there's probably a different reason. The first Sam Raimi one. I can't think of the actor's name who played
Tobey Maguire.
Tobey Maguire. I had waited 20 plus years for them to make a Spider-Man movie. There was a Spider-Man TV show in the 70s. I cannot remember the actor's name. It didn't run for a real long time. Very campy. If you get a chance, look it up on YouTube. It's hysterical how the CG graphics. There was no CG graphics back then. So it was funny the way it was done.
Just a guy on a rope.
Correct. But I had to sit there and watch them come out with a great Batman movie. Michael Keaton every year. This is a year. We've got the script. We got this. More years would pass. Still, no Spider-Man movie. No Spider-Man movie. So finally they do it. And they nailed it. I know people hated the fact that he had organic webs. People really despised it. That's fine. If that's the way you feel about it, that's fine. I try to keep a somewhat open mind, but I just think that they absolutely nailed that movie. The girl they cast for Mary Jane, was perfect, spot on. The story was told, but it took forever. And the reason was, I think it took forever, is Stan Lee would not sign off on it because he still had, at that time, total control over Marvel and stuff. And because he wouldn't sign off on it, it's why it took. They talked for 15 years about, we're doing a Spider-Man movie, and it didn't happen. Now, as far as best Spider-Man movie, I can find things I love about all of them. I know a lot of people hated the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. I liked him. I did. I loved the look of the suit. I thought the suit was awesome in those Amazings. But any movie I go to see, it doesn't have to be Spider-Man, any movie, as long as I'm entertained, I consider it a good movie. It doesn't have to be spot on accurate to everything that happened. The Amazing, Amazing Spider-Man 2, I can pick favorite scenes out of all the movies, but the one that's still in my mind is at the very end of the movie. Andrew Garfield had hung up his webs after Gwen Stacy died, and the Rhino is out there, and this little kid comes out in the suit, and he comes out of retirement, comes out, tells the kid, "Listen, go to your mom. I'll take care of this kid. Thanks for filling in." And that scene where he throws the manhole cover, just incredible, so cool. So yeah, I agree with you. They're all good, but the first one will always have a special place in my heart because I waited forever to see it, forever.
It's funny you bring up the Andrew Garfield ones. So when I first watched The Amazing Spider-Man, I kind of had an aversion to it at first because a lot of my friends who, I use the term friends loosely, my friends' friends who chose to talk to me about the stuff, when they showed the trailer, it kind of cracked me up the silly things that they picked out, that they were like, this will be a great movie. I remember the one guy he goes, this one's so good because he's got web shooters. And I'm like, all right, fine, I get it. Organic webbing.
Yes, you hate it.
But then another guy was like, oh, but how about his homemade suit? He's finally got a homemade suit. I'm like, you're right. The Nike cleats really add to the character. We were missing that in the Sam Raimi movie. And then I watched them. I enjoyed them. But, it's funny because it wasn't until No Way Home that I realized how good of an actor Andrew Garfield is.
Okay, so the newest Spider-Man iteration movies, I have a hard time remembering which is which based on the title. So No Way Home is the one where all three are reunited, correct? Okay.
Which
I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but every theater out there should have applauded immensely when Andrew Garfield and I still can't think of his name.
Tobey Maguire.
Jeez Louise. And Tobey Maguire came out when he did the sling ring thing and they came out. It should have been as big of an eruption as in Avengers when Cap finally, after how many movies, said Avengers Assemble.
Right.
You know what I mean? That should have been that reaction.
But with the Amazing movies, what kind of rubbed me the wrong way was I felt like they tried to, I think it's more apparent in the second movie, they tried to imitate the Tony Stark, Pepper Potts, the weird rambling where they would kind of go back and forth and and it kind of turned me off because to me it didn't work as well. And
did they come out after Iron Man, the original one?
Yes, Iron Man 1 was 2008 and Amazing was, I want to say 2010.
Yeah, your mind amazes me with these dates, years you can come up with.
Don't ask me about the American Civil War, but I can tell you both Marvel.
Ask me your sister. Yeah, what's your sister's birthday? Or what's my birthday? Right. We'll skip right along.
But but going back, because I watched them with my little brother. We went through a phase. We watched
I
all
remember
the
you
Marvel
said that.
movies,
Yep.
and then when we got caught up on all those, we watched all the Spider-Man movies. We never got around to finishing X-Men, but I think they're definitely better than they got credit for. I think 1 is better than 2, but I still enjoyed 2 quite a bit. Going back to the first Sam Raimi movie, I just love, like you said, like, you know, the cast. Like, I like James Franco. I know it's not cool to like him now. Kristen Dunst.
What's his place that played Green
Goblin?
Goblin?
I was leading
there
up
has
to
been
that.
no one better. William Dafoe, right? Is that his
Right.
name? Nobody has played that part better. Nobody will ever. It's like saying you're going to replace Wolverine. You
Right.
know, it ain't going to happen. It'll never be the same. It'll never be. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. Anybody else is just pretending that they're Wolverine.
Right. But yeah, it was so good. And I don't know. I don't like to get into the. Excuse me. I don't like the debate of which Spider-Man is best. I don't know. Like, some people.
They're different takes on the same person. Because every director and every Sam Raimi had a different vision. Who was the director of The Amazings?
Oh, that I'm not sure.
Oh, did I stump the host? But you know, it's the directors, and now by the time we've gotten to the current Spider-Man, Kevin Feige or whatever his name is, in charge of Marvel. He dictates the direction that all these things go. You know, it doesn't matter who's the directors. He has control over, and you know, he has said how these movies should be. And I think they've done a good job. I really do. I know one of your next podcasts should be Marvel versus DC in the movies. Why did Marvel work? And DC is still struggling to get the universe going. That'd be a good one. I would love to do that one with you if you'll have me back.
Okay, absolutely. I've heard a lot of people. Actually, recently I learned that a lot of people hate the Sam Raimi movies, but I don't. I mean, that was on Letterboxd, and you know, I don't know how accurate that is, but watching it's fine. Like I said, one episode, the Adam's cat feeder went off in the background, just ding 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 ding. But one of the, I've heard a lot of people talk about how they didn't like the Tom Holland movies because they didn't like how he was kind of all these heroes' sidekicks. Like the first movie, they were like, oh, he's just trying to be like Tony's sidekick. Like, it's all about the suit he got, and that's not who he is. And then, you know, but I feel like, I don't know, that never bothered me. I thought it made sense. Like, if you were a teenager and you had Tony Stark's help at your disposal, like I feel like that would make sense. So you would, use his technology. He's apparently just giving away suits. So, but then a lot of people talk. I watched a video one time where they said that they hated the first one, Homecoming. And honestly, one of the things I found most interesting about it was that it almost seemed like a tragedy. Like, if you think about this, I think he was supposed to be 14 or 15 in the movies. Yeah. One day he's just minding his own business. Iron Man shows up, says, "Hey, I need you to help me fight Captain America in Germany." And then after probably the craziest week of his life so far, he turns around and it's like, all right, go back to being a normal kid. And then the whole movie, he's just trying to prove himself. He's trying to prove himself to Tony Stark that he can be an Avenger. He can be an asset. And he's kind of just sidelined. But sorry. But I guess to kind of go off topic for a minute, you were talking about what got you into Spider-Man. Like I this will be the umpteenth time I've talked about that freaking cartoon. But also, I remember One of the first Spider-Man comics I read was a collection. I could still picture the cover of when Peter just got back from Secret Wars in his black suit.
Black suit,
and
yeah.
the whole story, like going to Mr. Fantastic, finding out it's alive, and then I don't know. I liked. I know it's controversial. I think I said last time I liked the Ben Reilly character. I could see why some people got annoyed with the whole like, is he the real Peter? Is he not the real Peter?
They took it a little too far.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's what the comics. That's what they did back then. They'd find a storyline and they'd work it for months. It would sometimes go months before they'd wrap up a storyline. And then, but the way comics were written, the way comics were portrayed changed over time also. There was more crossovers and things of that nature and stuff. So, like I said, from my opinion, I can find something that I loved about every one of them. Really can. The Spider-Man, the Tom Holland Spider-Man was meant to be more juvenile and more of a kid. So in the comics, Peter Parker was always trying to fit in. He was a bullied kid in school. So he wanted to join the Fantastic Four. He wanted to join the Avengers. When he finally became a, what did they call him? There was a term. Like an on-call Avenger. He wasn't, if they needed his help. In fact, I believe there was a comic that he had a card that showed he was, I don't want to say honorary, but, he was trying to fit in. He always felt he was alone. Daredevil never, in New York, Daredevil never really, he did his own thing. Peter Parker did. So I think he was always trying to find, and I think that's what they were trying to show. He's a kid. He doesn't know what the heck he's doing. He's making this up as it goes along. The other thing people hated about it is the Tom Hollands. There wasn't the intro and Uncle Ben having to die. We didn't have to watch that for the third variation of Spider-Man. Like every Superman movie, we have to watch, his dad, his adopted father, Pa Kent, gets killed, so it was nice not to have to watch that at least, because I can't imagine by the time the Tom Holland Spider-Man came out that nobody didn't know the backstory of Spider-Man, right? Because they didn't do how he got his powers or anything like that, right?
No.
He was just introduced in
Civil War.
Yeah, Civil War, and then boom, off to the races. So, that was a little refreshing, not have to sit through half an hour, 40 minutes of the same thing that we've seen.
Right.
Same thing with the Batman movies. Yeah, okay, we get it. His parents were killed. Yeah, he fell into a cave. Yeah, now he's Bat. So that was a nice change, I thought.
What else?
So what do you think about the trailers we've seen of the new one coming out? The whole change he's going through, the whole asking asking Bruce Banner to repress certain genes so that he's not changing. What do you think about that idea? Now, I don't know if we have the total truth of what this movie is all going to be about, but what do you think on that?
It's interesting. It's weird to me. So, like, just how many characters are in it? Like, obviously, Bruce Banner will be in it.
Yep.
I believe, even though they won't have the same relationship, that MJ and Ned are going to be in it.
They are.
Based on the trailer, it looks like Peter is fighting the Hand in one scene.
Which is kind of nice, something we have not seen in the movies at all.
And then Punisher is also in it. And apparently, I just saw a thing on Facebook the other day that there is still... there's a secret, I don't know if he's a villain, but there's a secret character that's still in... that, like, has not been leaked.
So somehow
Tom Holland said it. Yeah, somehow it has not been has not been announced. Hasn't been spoiled.
The thing I love about the Tom Holland Spider-Mans is the fact that Tom Holland is the one that leaks everything. He can't keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
They interview him, and I think he has pretty much given up just about everything there was supposed to be hidden about his movies. But he's a pretty young actor too. So, and he's just living high on the hog. I mean.
Him and Mark Ruffalo. I remember.
Mark Ruffalo's
the story
horrible about it
when I think it was Thor Ragnarok. He was live streaming before the movie started. And he forgot to end it, and so it was just in his pocket, the audio of the movie playing, and a bunch of people had to come out and yell at him to turn his phone off. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I mean, I'm always put Spider-Man in something. I'm excited. I don't. I wonder how much, if any of it, is going to tie into the bigger MCU, whatever that is anymore. This whole Doomsday, Secret Wars. I don't know. I don't even know if he's in it, actually. Now I'm thinking about it. Of all the trailers and things I've seen, like, I know, like, the Fantastic Four are in it, and so are...
You're talking about Doomsday now, right?
Doomsday, yes, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if Spider-Man... I don't know if Spider-Man's in it. I haven't heard talk about it.
I haven't heard anything about it either. I'd like to... There's another podcast idea. You could easily do a full episode on what happened to Marvel. They had everything planned out, and they had to perfection to get to Avengers... The last one, Endgame.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the most well laid out plan, and now all of a sudden it just seems like they're floundering, and I think it shows. It's showing in their movies. It's showing in the quality of their shows.
Yes.
Listen, I'll be your idea guy for these podcasts. How about we do that, Tom?
Hey, listen, I'm always
I think
open to...
people would like to hear that discussion too, because
yeah.
it's evident to anybody.
Not to go, off topic, but I think the problem is that they had a plan, but after Jonathan Majors shot himself in the foot when they had to shift everything away from Kang super quickly.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a big component, but then also it's hard. Like, no.
Don't get down this.
Yes, no. We'll be here for another hour.
Yeah, I just came up with a great question that has to do with Avengers and Doomsday and Kang versus the Kang the Conqueror. That would be good for another podcast. I'll even jot it down for you because it's a good one that I'd like to hear your answer on. Because,
okay.
But anyways. I think we're just about out of time.
Yeah,
anyways,
just about.
Spider-Man always have a special place in my heart. I don't care what version of it is out there. Spider-Man 2099.
Oh,
I thought I was going to hate that comic book because back then I was a purist. I ended up loving that comic book. Loved that take of Spider-Man. Thought it was ultimately very cool, and I believe the first time that you saw a variation. The 2099 world that Marvel did was, I believe, the first time in the comics you saw that variation. Then DC did it with Batman, Dark, not Nightfall, the one where he's the old man.
The Dark Knight Returns.
Yes, then all of a sudden all the comic books start doing these variations or different takes, but I think, Marvel really led the way. They really did. They were the ones that controlled the comic book industry. Anything new that they did, DC would follow immediately. They led. They were the head of the spear. I believe. Spider-Man was the first character killed. Kraven's Last Hunt.
Oh yeah.
What happens a couple years later? They kill Superman. You look at the dates, and maybe, in fact, please people listening to this, fact check me on this, but I'm almost positive that Kraven killing Spider-Man, and then the 6-episode miniseries when we find out Peter's not dead and he comes back from the life, then like a year later, well, we got DC. Who are we gonna kill off? Let's kill Spider-Man, Superman.
Yeah.
Let's kill Superman. So,
And actually, before we wrap up, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk. Also the Spider-Verse movies.
yeah. So I still haven't seen the second one.
Oh, really?
No,
Okay.
I'm an idiot, so I apologize. Big fan.
I won't. Yeah, I won't. I won't spoil anything. But it's funny. I love the first one, and I remember sitting with Uncle Grant talking about it, and I remember he was like, the nice thing about the first Spider-Verse movie is that it's not that it's a good Spider-Man movie. It's just a good movie. Like the movie.
It keeps your attention. It keeps your interest.
Yeah, and they really it was very simplified. Like in a movie with alternate universes and all these versions of Spider-Man. I love it. And I like the second one. I don't think it was as good as the first, but it's not a bad movie. But I do know it's interesting how long it's taking for part 3 to come out, because apparently that one was Across the Spider-Verse, I think it's called, and then the next one is Beyond the Spider-Verse, maybe. They were supposed to release like a year apart. And then after Across the Spider-Verse came out, there were all these articles about how Sony basically worked all their animators to death.
Oh.
They were on crunched, crazy deadlines, like working weekends, people sleeping in the office, and so everything kind of got put on hold while they were handling that PR disaster. And now I think it comes out sometime next year. But all right, well, what's up?
No, go ahead. Have you ever asked people on your different platforms or like YouTube if they can leave comments, topics they'd like to hear discussed? Have you ever had anybody respond yet?
I don't think so.
Okay, just something to throw out there. Please let them know what you want discussed, and even if Thomas and Adam don't know anything about it, they'll make it up, and people won't know the difference.
Half the point of the show. Well, I guess since Dad's already doing the wrap up. You can find us on Facebook as Two Guys Questionable Credentials. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube under the same name. If you feel the need to send us an email, we have twoguysnocreds@gmail.com. Leave a review, like and subscribe, leave a comment on something you'd like us to talk about next. What's your favorite Spider-Man movie or comic? And I guess we'll see you next time. Goodbye. All right, that's the show. Thanks for hanging out with us for another episode of Two Guys Questionable Credentials. If you laughed, learned something, or are now somehow more confused than when you started, then we've done our job. Be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend or an enemy. We're not picky. And remember, everything discussed here is just conversation, speculation, and two people confidently wandering through topics they may or may not fully understand. Please take none of this as legal, medical, or emotional advice. We'll see you next time.